r/NoSleep. Posted by u/CrimsonBayonet. I explored an abandoned hospital and found a terrifying secret. So, I was exploring an old abandoned hospital with a friend of mine. The hospital was in Detroit and the hospital itself didn't have a dark history or strange past. It just ran out of funding and everyone left. Now, you may ask, why to explore this thing then? Well, there is a good reason. They left all the equipment, documents, medicine, and rooms all intact. The power was still running for some reason despite it being abandoned for almost 12 years. Oh. Right, my name is Travis and my friend is Carl. To give an idea of the layout of the hospital, it has a 10-foot brick wall that surrounds the whole area. There are 2 gates, one in the rear and one in the front. These gates are, from what I can see, still powered. Now, the hospital itself is 5 stories and still rather well kept up with. The walls had vines, but the place was mowed weekly, but this could be because the city has an ordinance on unkempt grass. I was driving and decided to park about a mile away at a Walmart since I know they won't to my car. Carl and I grabbed our gloves and dark clothing to sneak through the hospital easier. We don't know if there is any security because when we scoped it out we haven't seen anyone come in or out besides the landkeeper. You see, I like to do my homework before I go urban spelunking, so for about a week I would use a drone to test the waters, so to speak. The oddest thing is the landkeepers only stayed for about 30 minutes, then leave, then come back after another 30 minutes. I wasn't sure about the odd behavior so I noted it down just in case. As we were walking, Carl and I were talking about the hospital and what we may find. However, I will not disclose some of the personal information on here of the records I found. We will talk about how fucked up some of the practices were. I read online there are disappearances in the hospital and some people have died with very basic diseases, so they got sued out of all their money. That's why they closed, Carl said excitedly. I don't know, man, I've read throughout many transcripts and haven't read that. Where did you find this out? I asked. Man, I'ma keep it a buck. It was on one of those ghost hunting sites that look into not only ghosts but spooky shit in general. So the claims may be fake, but what? Can you imagine if it was real? He had a childlike wonder in his voice. I love you, bro, we will see, but don't get your hopes up just in case, I said, laughing lightly. We got to the southern wall and at the time it was just entering dusk. The perfect time where we have daylight to look around but enough night to hide in case there is a security guard that I didn't catch. I boosted Carl over the wall. He then reached down to assist me. We got up and over with no difficulty and no issues. Oh shit, bro, here it is. Months of planning to check this place out. Yo, we should take something as a souvenir, Carl said jokingly. Ha ha ha, man, I wish we could, but it wouldn't be safe and I don't want to be that kind of explorer to ruin the fun for others, I spoke in a soft and light tone. I again will mention I like to do my homework. This means preparation is a must for me. I always prepare for the absolute worst so I can have the best possible outcome. We double-checked the bags that I packed. With non-perishable food, a thermal blanket, a first aid kit, backup batteries and portable charges, 2 lanterns that you can shake to charge and 2 handheld tasers, and a bear spray. Man, did you pack to go camping? We are only going to be there for about 2 hours, Carl said, confused. You can never be too prepared, I said with a bounce in my voice. We kept our talking to a minimum as we didn't want to alert anyone we were on the grounds. We got to the front door and, just as I suspected, they were unlocked. I slowly opened the doors as it creaked rather loud. The sound of the door slowly opening faintly reverberated down the empty halls, echoing for what seemed like forever. Once we got into the main hall, I looked around. It was a silent, dusty and dingy building on the inside. Dust danced in the air and was sparkling in the rays of sunshine pouring through the grimy windows. It felt so surreal, like something from a video game or movie. Yes, it was a bit nasty and dusty, but there was an innate beauty about the place. Like it was calming to see it being so quiet and untouched by a man. We walked down the main hallway toward our first spot. The cafeteria. I remember these halls rather well. I walked, ran, and played down these halls often since I was chronically mentally ill. I don't have many memories as I repressed most of my life. After all, my mother didn't care about me and let me and my sister be abused by my alcoholic father. What was I supposed to do? How else could I escape? It felt as if suicide was my only option most nights. Luckily, the staff at this hospital were sweet to me. Treated me like family. Sorry, it got heavy, just reliving the place makes me so upset at times. Anyhow, we got to the cafeteria and I get a vision of my past. eating ice cream with a broken jaw after my dad attacked me for spilling milk on the floor. It brought a tear to my eye. "Yo, bro, are you okay?" Carl said worriedly. "Why yai? I just have some memories here and must have been stuck in one," I said, shaking my head and laughing nervously. "Hey man. Look, if you need to we can stop here for a bit and let you mentally catch up," Carl said while smiling and placing his hand on my left shoulder. Yes, let's sit and I don't know. Eat?" I said, running my fingers through my jet black hair. "I'd bet. I brought some tuna sandwiches with banana peppers." Carl spoke with enthusiasm. We sat down and began eating the food. Carl was always a great guy. We came to this ward often together despite being here for different reasons. His mother had cancer, and he was here most days. We spent a lot of time together, so this was nice. We haven't eaten in here since we were still kids. We sat and laughed loudly as we spent a ton of time reminiscing about playing hide and seek in the ward. "You remember when we were playing hide and seek and I couldn't find you? Ha ha ha. We got worried but found you sleeping in a custodial closet, and when we did finally find you, you screamed like a baby and wouldn't stop crying." Carl laughed as he told the story. I don't. Maybe I repressed it but I can't seem to remember," I said. He looked at me puzzled and said, "That's odd because when we found you, your back was bleeding lightly and you told me it was my fault that he found you." The whole thing was odd thinking about it. This is something I have only heard about and the staff wrote this down as a self-harm incident. I don't remember doing this. Well, now I do look at the event in hindsight. We both laughed it off as one of my fits but we still felt weirded out by the whole thing. I mean, we weren't drifting apart but there was an air of unsettling about us. We were both antsy as if we were forgetting something. I swallowed my food down and asked Carl, "How about we go to the closet? Get some closure, haha. What can be the worst thing there? A broom?" I laughed, trying to cover my fear over the situation. "You know what? Fuck that closet, bro. We're gonna go there and make it our bitch," Carl said triumphantly. We packed our remaining food and started to walk toward the closet, laughing along the way. As we got closer and our footsteps echoed through the empty halls, I got a chill up my spine. My very being is telling me to turn back, as if the very primal fight or flight responses were telling me it was impossible to fight. I didn't even notice but I stopped in my tracks and Carl kept walking. It took him about 20 feet before he noticed I was standing still. "Ayo. Bro, are you good?" he yelled at me. Shortly without answering, he jogged toward me to shake me awake. "Ayo bro," Carl yelled again while shaking me. I shook my head and blinked my eyes, not knowing what happened or what was happening. What happened? I can't remember anything." Carl looked at me and explained how he had to shake me awake and how I was disassociating again. I looked at him and said we should go back, something is messing with my mind. "Nah, man. We're going to solve this today. You won't get closure if we don't," he said, reassuring me. I don't have any reason not to trust Carl. He was like a brother to me. We went and did everything together. We went to school, Boy Scouts, college, and even got an apartment together for some time. So I trust him. I just shook my head, yes, and we kept walking. Even though every ounce of my body told me this was not going to go well and to turn around, we kept walking. As we got within 10 feet of the closet, some foul smell started to permeate the hall. It was like the smell of death and iron. It was so foul we gagged from the smell. We looked at each other and decided to walk toward the closet more. Morbid curiosity set in and he opened the closet, revealing a bloated, dead raccoon. We looked at each other and laughed nervously. Carl stopped and looked closer in the closet. "Hey man. There's writing on the wall here." He squinted, not wanting to get closer to the dead animal. "Well, what does it say, man?" I asked. He looked at me while shaking. His face was white and spoke to me in a quiet tone. I had never seen him scared. He always was strong and I never saw him scared, but it looked like he saw a ghost. "Well, what did it say?" I asked again. "Run," he whispered. "What the foo?" I said. "Get the fuck out of here," he yelled as he started to run by me. I didn't think twice and started to sprint with him. I thought I was going crazy, but I could hear growling right behind me and what sounded like something was chasing us. I dared not to look back as I can hear it breathing loudly and gaining on me. We got outside and turned around to look at what was chasing us. It was a large black mass with glowing silver eyes. I can smell its breath as it sunk back into the hospital. "What did it say?" I screamed. "I see you, Carl," Carl said, huffing and puffing. We both looked at each other and decided to go home. When we got to the wall about to scale it, we noticed it grew. It was an impossible height. 20 maybe 30 feet tall. We looked at each other and Carl started to laugh. "Good thing I brought this," Carl said, reaching into his bag. Carl pulled out a handgun with 3 loaded magazines. I had never seen him shoot in his life, but he looked determined. He then spoke up. "I'm not sure what that thing was, but we can't get out. We better find a room and hide and barricade it." I just shook my head agreeing. Whatever this thing was not letting us go anytime soon. We got back inside, slowly walking into a room and pushing the leftover dresser and bed against the large door. Seconds later we hear banging and howling. It tried to get in but couldn't. For a moment it seemed to give up. I stood up and decided to quietly rummage through the old belongings of the previous Narrate of the room. This room was occupied by a young woman. Let's call her Jane. Turns out Jane had BPD and was put into the hospital by her family. She wrote in her journal often saying how the demons are watching her. How interesting, I thought to myself as I skimmed the journal more. It went into great detail on how there was a doctor no one knew on a floor no one knows other than them. She was taken there and experimented on. They twisted and tied her organs together and caused her severe pain. As I read, the more and more frantic the writing got and the more and more it seemed she was being tortured by the doctor. She spoke about how her toes were amputated and then sewed back on without the use of anesthesia. I then got into my head remembering something. I passed out with the memory turning into a dream. I was about 10 when I woke up in a bed. Different from my own, and I was tied down and couldn't move or speak. I could move my eyes left to right and saw a doctor. This was strange as the doctor was wearing a splash mask and wearing typical attire. He looked at me and smiled as they moved a scalpel toward my chest. It was then I felt the cold steel plunge into my chest, cutting me deep. The warm blood poured out of my chest and I can feel the muscles separating and splitting, exposing my chest cavity. The pain was so unbearable even when I tried to sleep, the pain kept jolting me back awake. The doctor then grabbed forceps and spread my chest apart before grabbing the bone saw. I can feel my ribcage being cut into. Every inch, no. Every centimeter felt like years of torture. The sickening sound of my blood still squelching out and the pain of my chest being split in two was burned into my brain still. After the doctor split my chest open, he grabbed my still beating heart and ripped it out without any incisions. I felt as his large hands wrapped around my heart and were ripped out. Every single aorta value snapping into my chest had me screaming in pain. Well, at least I tried to, that is. Come to find out, my mouth was sewn shut. The doctor then grabbed a black, rotting looking heart from a cooler and placed it where my heart was. I instantly felt it absorbing my thoughts and feelings. This wasn't a heart but a parasite. I can feel this thing taking over my heart and slowly reaching upward toward my brain. As I passed out, I woke up from this nightmare screaming about how I didn't want it to happen again. "Hey man, are you good? Do you need help, bro?" he said, shaking me. I woke up right outside the closet again. I shook my head and told Carl. "How did I get here?" He looked at me puzzled. "You walked? We were going to check the closet to get over your fear." "No," I yelled, "Ahem, I mean. No, it's not a good idea. Let's just go home, please." Carl shrugged, not contending but understanding. We later talked about it that night and how tomorrow I will feel better. We then walked to the wall and jumped over it, got into the car, and drove home. I think Carl felt it too. I don't know what happened, but I want to know what is going on in there. I'll keep you guys updated on what I find. I think. No, I know there's something evil about this place. Stay safe out there, guys.